other daughter went to William and Mary. She got her master's. Yeah, they stayed all in the States.
Information about.
Said by you, oh my gosh, short timer.
Great.
Right there.
Catch up, no, so we can catch up. I said,
Oh, Lord. Yes.
like Steven said, we're next to the mic.
Oh, press it. There's this mute
We need
button.
to.
Yeah, why are we always gathered?
Our meeting's at.
We want-
4:10, I think.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
And there's,
Sorry, yeah,
there's
they reached out.
6:30, so it should be okay.
They walked.
Oh, that's why I'm staying here.
Yes.
So,
Well, let me know.
Okay, so I would.
All right. We will call this meeting to 1 minute late at 9:31. We will start with the roll call and determination of quorum.
Matthew Lehane.
Here.
Molly Canelo.
You're
Jamie Jackson.
Here.
Osama Min. Adam Derrick.
here.
Melody Fowler. Here. Amy Garbarini. Kate Gibson. Here. Stephen Haynes.
Here.
Christine Hoff. Leon Hughes. Daniel Koenig. Nick Miner.
Here.
Stephen Miner. Nick Ruiz.
Here.
Bob Schneider.
Here.
Kathy Coffey. Here. Ronnie White.
Here.
Republic Bari. Lee Anderson. Mohammed Ben Omar is online. Chelsea Baytas. Kimberly Cook. Mike Craig.
Here.
Brian Council. Shannon Bill. Susan Gardner. Todd Horsley. Cassie Lord. Here. Jacob Paswick. Greg Pennington. Craig Reed. Joe Stainsby.
Awesome, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item number 3, approval of the November 6, 2023 Technical Advisory Committee agenda. This is an action item. Do you have a motion for approval?
So I would like to pull under the consent, the 6C.
Okay.
And have that go basically with the rest of the RTA discussion.
Okay, we'll move that under 8B. All right, do I have a motion approval with the amendment of moving 6C under 8B?
Motion to approve.
All right, second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to the item number 4, review of the October 16th, 2023 Policy Committee meeting.
So, as we discussed previously, I don't go blow by blow through this whole thing. If you look at the, is that the policy agenda you've got up there? Sorry?
No.
Can you pull up the policy agenda, please? Thank you. Just enlarge it. Scroll down to, so there's a couple of public comment periods and that minor amendment to the SGGB process, which you all agreed to. The river crossing study, the task order for Michael Baker was approved, and we've issued notice to proceed. The Regional Transportation Authority update is on this agenda, so I'm not going to revamp that. Vision 2075, the policy committee just adopted that very brief starting point for that vision. So both the TAC and the policy committee have approved that. We're now going to add some more detail to it and bring it back to you. And that's all that was on that agenda. I will handle the RTA in this agenda, so I'm not going to rehash that. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item number 5, public comment. Comments and questions from members of the public are welcome at this time, and staff will also read public comments submitted by the public prior to the meeting. Do we have anyone in the room or online who wishes to make public comment?
Just very quickly, it'll probably be 30 seconds. Alan Watkins from England and Stafford. I would say that I attended the transportation meeting that was held at Stafford Board of Supervisors. Basically a presentation by Mr. Payne, and it was very, very thorough. And there was a lot of good discussion regarding everything going forward, new projects. And then I'm also very happy to see that in staff reports for today that there's information regarding the Rivers Parkway study or alternative studies. Looking forward to hearing about all that.
All right, thank you. All right, I believe, unless there's anybody else in the room or online, we have 2 public comments received in advance.
Yes. Matt Steinbaum, a college student at University of Mary Washington, called to relay comments and concerns about trail improvements to the BCR Trail, Smith Run Trail, and has hopes that the small section of the trail off River Road will become developed and connected to other trail networks. Additionally, we received a comment from John Bryant. I'm one of the many against the regional authority for our region. Citizens have been taxed enough and it is time to stop. We should tax the businesses that come in and create all the traffic, not the people who have lived near for many generations. Tax the home builders and tax all the people who drive through the area that go north and south of our homes. Say our biggest problem is due not having the ability to say no more homes. The home builders are our biggest problems. Tax them. Thank you for listening and thank you. That's all the comments we received in advance. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll close the public comment period and move on to the consent agenda. Do I have an approval of the consent agenda with minus item 6C?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And then we'll move on to item 7, tip rollover request and amendments. This is resolution 24-13. We'll do first. Ian, is there anything you want to add to this? Or?
No, these are rollovers. John is the guy that's the expert on them, so
These are the two rollovers from the temp amendments in the previous meeting, so we just amended these, and now we're rolling it. They were amended for FY 21-24. They're now being rolled over into FY 24-27, and following them, they're going to get additional amendments to basically funding through the following year.
All right, thank you, John. Unless there's any, go ahead,
That's
Paul.
one question, like what's the difference between 7A and 7B?
First step is the rollover step from the last tip to the new tip. And the second one is directing a public comment period because we're amending the FY 24.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
All right, so do I have a motion for item 7A endorsing resolution 24-13?
Motion to approve?
All right. And a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Move on to item 7B, endorsing resolution 24-14. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to item number 8, our action discussion items. We'll start with item 8A, Smart Scale Round 6 CTB update and regional project ideas. Carrie, take it away.
Sure. This is an update to the October 17th meeting. Next slide. So at that meeting, we had the final recommendations from the CPB staff. They are delineated here. They changed the economic development 1 and 2 scoring methodology and process. They thankfully did the addition of the mid-level application tier, which will affect FAMPO. They strictly defined the HPP eligibility to a list of project types. They are eliminating funding step 2. These are recommendations. They're calculating congestion benefits 10 years in the future, and they're going to modify the land use factor to a multiplier of all the other factor areas and modify those weightings. And an important one here to remember, they're tying funding to past performance of locally administered. So for economic development, the current way of scoring does not incorporate key economic priorities, it just focuses on scoring. So their proposed methodology will incorporate the key economic priorities for the state, attracting growth industries, and job creation and capital investments. And also, they're going to be shifting from freight tonnage to freight volume. And there's more about economic development changes at that link, if you want to read more about it. Next slide.
Oh, could I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
What was the justification from shifting from tonnage to volume? Was there some inefficiency in using volume?
me complaining, but
For many months, you were wondering if they were listening to you.
you remember one of the goals of the Freight Summit was to think about funding for freight corridors.
Mhm.
One of the problems we found is in the past, they were measuring freight tonnage and not freight volume in order to calculate things like VTRAN's needs. And when you then apply for,
I see where you're going. Yeah, yeah.
and we don't have the highest tonnage on the I-95, but we do have the largest number of trucks.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the tonnage causes congestion, it's the number of vehicles. And so I was pushing very heavily for that. And I think to a degree the TAC was in favor of us trying to get that, because I think it, in the long run, will get us better funding for our freight corridors.
Yeah. I don't have an issue with it. I'm just curious. That's a weird change, but
That's the logic. Is
not so weird when you explain it.
think about congestion, then it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so the exclusive list of projects for HPP eligible funding. Only projects that include these feature types: new capacity highway, managed lanes, new or improved interchanges, new or improved passenger rail stations of service, freight rail improvements, high capacity fixed guideway transit, transfer stations, and new bridges. So reminder, this is for MPOs and PDCs, not localities. At 10:31 Smart Scale Town Hall, CTV staff did discuss reviewing and potentially expanding this list. No promises there. Final ruling will be in December.
When you look at this list though, and you think about our region, unless we get some projects submitted in our region for rail improvements, or Jamie decides or somebody else decides they're going to go ahead with the high capacity transit, literally all of this is going to be highway capacity extension. So it's heavily focused on highway capacity extension, because the rail and fixed guideway transit tends to be infrequent. So once in a decade, you do something like that. You don't do that frequently. So it's going to skew HPP towards increasing roadway capacity on big projects. Just think about how that's going to pan out.
Yes.
Not for localities. Localities can obviously do smaller projects.
There were several questions at the town hall and before about corridor improvements, like corridor-wide improvements, but they might be talking about that, but right now that is not included.
I guess I wanted to ask just about major intersection improvements, the quadrant roadway, or some other type of massive intersection improvement.
What I've heard is Quadrant Roadway does count as new road, so that one is included.
Okay.
I might just point out to members that our CTB member, Laura Sellers, is online, was unable to attend the meeting in person. But should you have any questions for her, or if she needs to make any comment to add more detail, that as she was in the meeting that heard all of these things, she is online if you want to ask anything. We're not politicizing the TAC. We're just saying that this is our CTB member who is part of the process and may have some further detailed information based on the hearings and the workshops and the correspondence at the CTB.
But to clarify, a typical intersection improvement would not happen to the new roadway or a grade separation.
For example, Lafayette Boulevard, this is going to have impacts for a possible project on Lafayette Boulevard. Most of the potential improvements on Lafayette Boulevard would not qualify. They're too small, and they would not qualify for a FAMPO project. They would still qualify for a jurisdiction project, but not for a FAMPO project.
Yeah, and one other item as well, as Ian mentioned earlier, with transit, it's, unless there's changes to this, it's significant transit projects. I'm not sure if just improvements to like bus shelters or anything would qualify. Okay.
They won't.
Like,
For HPP funds.
Yep.
for HPP funds.
For HPP, we're only talking about HPP funds here. We're not talking about jurisdictional projects.
HPP,
But
right.
somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe transit is only eligible for HPP.
So I know that.
I don't know. We've got the two transit experts over there, Bob and Jamie. So I don't know if they know any different. Oh, wait, and Nick.
No, I think you actually are right.
Yeah, I think.
High priority was the only
Okay.
avenue for
Similar to
transit, for
MPO.
capacity transit.
And you have to be,
So,
and they have to be major transit projects.
yeah, yeah.
Our capital's rolling stock, not real estate, so it's different animals.
Yeah, okay.
So the next recommendation, of course, is eliminating funding step 2. This is to remedy lower scoring projects were being funded over higher scoring projects. And small projects were being submitted by MPOs and PDCs and funded with high priority project funding. So this will mean that all MPO and PDC projects wait until step 3 and compete statewide against regions with significant leveraged funding. This is going to make local match much more essential to the process in the coming months. All MPO and PDC projects must contain at least one of the features listed in the HPP project eligibility list. Get a large regional project.
This is the step, this is the change that makes your cost benefit analysis more important. So because of this, if you put zero leverage funding on a project, your cost benefit calculation is going to be worse. And that would give you a lower score for your project. Just remember, this is the change here that affects the cost benefit, because cost wasn't looked at as much in step 2. In step 3, it's a key issue.
In step 2, you were being graded against district projects, against state. So the stakes are higher. But there was some good news. There's a new mid-level application tier being proposed. And we are now in that mid-level tier, which means that we will be having 5 pre-applications and 4 full applications, just as we were.
I want to comment on this, if I may. I just think, I know we don't want this meeting to go on too long, but I just think we should take a moment and actually focus on this. And I said this before, but I credit Paul for starting us down this path. We, after his suggestion, we did a big push together with our CTB member, together with the current chairman of the FAMPA Policy Committee, to get a mid-tier created. And we've succeeded, right? I think that's something to be celebrated and not just glossed over. It's not just, oh, this happened. It's like we were the cause of this. And currently, if you look at those that are included, which I think might be on your next slide.
Yes.
There you go. Look at that. There is only one MPO or PDC in the state of Virginia that has been given this status. We are the only one, right? And that is a huge win for us. Secondly, Stafford and Spotsylvania, because of their population size, have also been pushed into a mid-tier. So that's a huge win for some of our jurisdictions. Unfortunately, City of Fredericksburg doesn't have the population to be able to take advantage of this. However, this is a big step forward. I think we should thank those who contributed, thank those who came up with the idea, and just point this out. The 2 things that are missing there, which we think are not correct, are that the GWRC PDC is not included in the mid-level, and Fred FXB Go, Fred Transit is not included in the transit section. Now, we did hear at the Bike Ped Committee that a calculation was done where they removed the MPO population from the PDC population, and therefore the PDC doesn't qualify.
Correct.
And I said some very rude things about that, which I had to take back at the end of the meeting. I don't agree with that. I think that's not been done elsewhere. And so I need to see numbers where they did this to other PDCs and MPOs, right? However, there are no other MPOs or PDCs on the list, so maybe they did. Maybe that's the reason the others aren't on there. So I don't know. Maybe it is correct, maybe it isn't. I don't know, but certainly isn't in written policy that I know of, but maybe it is, and I just haven't found it yet.
So just a comment on that, if they are doing that statewide, I think like, Richmond and Hampton Roads, most of the population is in the MPO, that those rural areas of Hampton Roads.
Yeah, they're not, yeah.
And Richmond are not going to be over the threshold to trigger this, so.
Right.
I would think it would have some other impacts.
Okay, so anyway, that's just the state of play now. maybe we should still question why FXB Go is not there. I think that our local transit operator covers the whole of the MPO area, so theoretically they should be in there. But anyway, that's the state of play now.
I mean, they said they were gonna have to update this table anyway.
Okay.
I think Brunswick.
I think was not supposed to be on there, so,
Brunswick's come off.
yeah, so,
Anyway,
saying that this table wasn't completely accurate, which they got called out during the meeting for.
They pulled Brunswick, North Carolina, instead of Brunswick, Virginia.
Yeah.
Oh,
hate it.
I was gonna say.
Hate it when that happens, right?
3,000 people.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can at least celebrate the fact that FAMPO and 2 of our jurisdictions have got an extra slot, which they would have not gotten if we didn't make this big push, right? And I think that's something to be celebrated. It's an achievement. So I know I belabored this point a little bit, but yeah, let's not pass over the successes, because we sometimes don't get successes, and here we have.
To put it in perspective, there's about 100 counties in Virginia, and 4 will, and 2 of them are in ours, and as well as MPO PDC, with about 30 of those, 1. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
So I think this is great, and well done to everybody who helped. And thanks to our CTB member who assisted us as well. I'm sure she can hear us online.
Spelled album all wrong too. Albor.
Anyway, Carrie, over to you.
Next slide.
Oh.
So part of the final staff recommendations is to modify the land use factor. Because they were finding that the land use factor in some cases was as much as 74% of a project's total scoring. And they found that to be an outsized influence. So they're going to be using it as a modifier and modifying factor weightings. They're going to use it as a modifier in safety and congestion. And in some cases, all of the other benefits. And that's going to change it quite a bit. It's going to mean that bicycle and pedestrian projects are not going to score as highly, whether for MPOs or localities. So that's going to make a big difference on bicycle and pedestrian projects as standalone projects. They're not going to score as highly as they were. They won't be as strong for applications. So something to think about there. You're going to probably want to combine the this round. Next slide. Another thing to be aware of, staff recommendation to tie funding to performance of locally administered projects. This is to remedy too many canceled or delayed smart scale projects that were funded. Even if a project scores well in smart scale, the CTB has the choice not to fund it if the applicant has a 4-track record of locally administered projects. This is tracked through VDOT, LAP, and district CTB member. I don't know if VDOT has any more information to add to that, but that's something to think about.
Is that a slide that's not in like the online?
Right, these are things that, so I found out some more things after the document.
Things are moving really quickly at the moment on a lot of fronts, and so sometimes we have to quickly update before the next meeting. We're just trying to keep abreast of it.
So just a question on that, like if a locality, let's say were to have an issue, but they want VDOT to administer the project, then there's no issue?
That's a good question.
I would certainly hope. I think that, the implication from my seat at least was that, we won't let you locally administer if you've had trouble doing it in the past. That is
my understanding as well. There would also be some discussion that if it were to be handed over to if you will, about capacity and to take it on.
Sure.
But still getting the projects done.
So next steps, as you know, in December, the project concepts up to 10 are due in the VDOT pre-scoping portal. And in December, we also find out what the revised smart scale policy is going to be from all of the recommendations. And we have until March 31st. Note that March 22nd for FAMPO DWRC pre-applications. Staff is going on leave, so I'd like to have all of those in by March 22nd if we can for the pre-applications. So there's a lot coming up. And
Yes, just make sure with that one that you let us know, which applications you want us looking at. And
great, and you said three total, like one new one and two previous study projects.
projects that you already applied for Smart Scale,
And that would be by
December 1st.
December 1st.
And the same 3 and 1 for GWRC,
So on December 1st, you need to know the three.
Yes.
Cassie,
What?
and the same for the GWRC projects.
Yep.
3 and 1.
2 and 1.
So my sorry, whatever the number. My pushback to VDOT is, yes, we should give a list of projects in by December the 1st. But my pushback is, we don't even know what the official policy is till December the 5th.
Yes, I know. So basically, what I think the best bet is have what the final recommendations are, have that as your go-to, and then just have kind of another set in your back pocket of what could potentially be if stuff does not get approved on the 5th.
I think what we can is very good communication and very transparent, understanding of what's going on. So we recognize that the rules are not finalized. However, if our understanding stays, then these are the ones we would want to move forward with. If there's question on some or all of those, let us know that, because we can't start working on every project all at the same time. But, and so we would look to maybe put some of those, on the back burner. But we need to be able to look to see for project readiness, what may need to be done, if there needs to be any type of additional traffic counts and updates. We need to be able to plan for anything that we aren't specifically doing. Truly, we will have to have some type of support in-house. We don't have the staff in-house right now to even do this. So we need to be able to line up something that we can have for some type of staff augmentation. So if something happens with CTV and it turns out that one of the three that you guys have given us is not feasible, please swallow that. It's not trying to be harsh. It's not trying to be anything that's helping us.
So our next TAC meeting is on the what of January? 4th of January.
I'm not, something like that, yeah.
So
That's VPAC.
my suspicion is that we should put in projects now, but we should put in more than the 3+1 into the portal.
10 is what the portal allows in that.
Yeah.
So
Personally, I think we should put in more than the 3+1 or 6+2,
2 plus
5+2.
plus 1.
2 plus 1.
He's going to keep adding more.
I know. But I just keep saying 2 plus 1.
So
I like
whatever,
the thought though.
whatever the number is, and we put in extras, and we, on the 4th of January,
2nd of January. I was wrong.
8th of January.
January 8th.
Never mind.
okay, well, I asked you all and you all keep getting it wrong. So whatever the first,
Nobody else, just
the
me.
first week of January, we just have a final revisit to this list. Remembering that actually the TAC doesn't make this decision. It's the policy committee that makes this decision. And so I think we need to be careful about taking on authority we don't have, right? So I think we should take this list that we have, work on it now, reduce it to ones that we think are going to be viable, stick it in the portal. But beyond that, without knowing the results of the pipeline studies, without knowing the vote on the 5th of December, there's still a lot of things we don't know. And I'm concerned about an absolute here are the final projects on the 1st of December. I certainly don't feel comfortable about saying these are the ones and only these. Very comfortable putting in like a reduced list from the, right? Because we know the exact projects, except the studies. We don't know what the project is. I'm happy for us to reduce this to, a reasonable number, put them in the portal so VDOT has formally access to them and we've listed them and all that. But I would think first week of January, we'll need to revisit this once we know a little bit more from the pipeline studies, once we know what the vote is of the CDP, and once we have the opinion of the policy committee, which we need to hear. But anyway, I, as you know, don't get a vote in any of these committees, so I'm just giving you my opinion.
To clarify a couple of items as well in terms of number of applications. So as currently allocated for the presentation, the city of Fredericksburg would have 4 pre-apps. Caroline County and King George would also have 4 pre-apps and 3 final applications. And Judorough C, potentially right now, would have 4 pre-apps and 3 final applications. And then Fampo, Stafford, and Spotsylvania will have 5 pre-apps and 4 final applications. So we would have 9 to 10 pre-apps that would be able to move forward with on March 22nd.
Second. Well,
Second.
second is just the regionals that I'm in charge of. 31st for the localities.
Paul?
If you can, please go back to the previous slide. Just with that first bullet, was the up to 10, was that assuming 5 for GWC and 5 for FAMPO, or how was the 10 calculated?
The portal allows up to 10, and that you'd have to ask VDOT why they allowed the 10.
There's a reason for that, but I believe that's for each entity that has a portal login. So the portal can house up to 10 in a pre-scoping active status, I believe, Stephen, and they can be archived. And would think that you could flip between archive and active. And then I would just, throw them as a plug in there again as far as it is to everyone's advantage. If you have true ideas of projects that you really want to see happen and you maybe don't know if it's smart scale or if it's HTIP or if it has some funding, you can put that in the portal. We are happy to look at those and help with them outside of the normal smart scale cycle. And so that's just an easy way for us to communicate. And then that can be, you can move it from that pre-scope module over to one of the application types. So I think it just makes it kind of easier. And then once it is submitted in the pre-scope module, I believe it does become viewable to the public. So it really is just somewhere that people could look at it. I don't know how many people would do that, but it could happen.
So with like the state studies for the pipeline studies and just the STAR studies, like we don't have most of the recommendations from those yet. I mean, if we want to do something from that, is the desire that we still have to basically put that in this portal now without having much information?
I don't know if those would be ones you would need our assistance with. So the 3 applications, the one like new idea, new concept,
Right.
plus 2 repeats or 3 repeats is fine as well. Those are the ones that we would assist you. It doesn't limit the number of applications or pre-apps that anyone can have. This is just what we are able to assist with on our end. So if there are others that come from a STAR study or a pipeline study that really don't need anything extra, then that can be just used from those studies and input into the system directly.
Yeah, those aren't really going to be part of the 3 that we're looking at because we'll have the consultant doing those. And I mean, we'll review them obviously, but you won't need like our specific help then with them, where these 3, you would need us updating the cost estimates. If it's a brand new project, doing like some kind of study for it and everything. So like the pipeline and STARS ones are actually ones that are going to be like ready to go without basically VDOT having to really do any.
Yeah, and those are on the pipeline STARS. If there was a previous pipeline or STARS that there needs to be some type of modification and update something else, that would be those 2 existing ones, or if there was a previous application that's not one.
So coming back to the 10, we understand the 3 that basically we need VDOT help with. I guess the other 7 basically are the 4 needed in December.
Oh, no. No, those are just any issues that you're seeing or anything that you guys in the future want to potentially be looked at.
It's 3 from the FAMPO list plus 1. 3 plus 1? What's the one?
2 plus 1.
2 plus 1. So 2 old ones.
2 plus 1.
Yes. And
Okay,
1.
3.
Yeah.
And then for GWRC?
Same thing.
Same thing.
3.
So
6.
Yes.
These are the ones that
We might need to pull them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
to clear,
You've got 6 that you want in the portal, plus this pipeline studies and the
Yes.
star studies.
so to clarify, if we want VDOT help, if we did not want ourselves to pay a consultant to do cost estimates and do sketches, we would need to give VDOT our 3 to 6 projects by December 1st. If
Right.
Bampo had money or a locality has money to do it ourselves, March 31st or March 22nd as shown on the screen.
Just doing a calculation. In the green list that I'm looking at in front of us, printed on your thing, 3 of those are pipelines in the green, leaving us with 12, I believe, if my math is correct, that are not pipeline studies. So out of the 12, we are saying that we should put 6 in that we're asking for VDOT's help with, right?
Yes.
Which means potentially reducing the number 12 to 6. I mean, it might not be exactly 6 that we can agree on, but that's what the ask is if I understand. Paul, I'm not unhappy about listing the pipeline studies, etc., in the portal anyway, because if we're going to use it in the future, we can just start loading the heading and the title and the basic whatever, and then as more information becomes available, we can add to it. But I don't think the policy committee are going to vote on those now with so little information.
There are 1 or 2 yellow ones that might be green. I just need more information on them
So
as well.
to clarify as well, there's 18 projects here that are green or yellow. I think we're pretty certain that the projects that are not colored will not qualify. So at the very least, Carrie, I think this is a question for the TAC. Would everyone be in agreement that those 18 projects can be listed in pre-scoping module under FAMPO and GWC?
Yes.
Each GWC has 10 pre-scoping
So,
modules and FAMPO has 10 pre-scoping modules.
So I know there were some issues with quadrant roadway. We have a quadrant roadway project that's done in the whites. Be up in the green.
That's
Pipeline.
the sheet on the computer, Paul, is old. The sheet that you have in is
The one in front of you has been updated because
Yeah, I don't.
we got more information during the week, so there it is.
you should be good to go on that one.
Is it there in the green now?
Don't have anything.
Okay, good. So if we can work off the printed list that you have in front of you, we updated it like on, was it Friday, I think.
Yep.
Like that at the moment, guys. It's just like every second or third day, we learn another little tiny fact, which changes it a little. So just be patient with us. We update you as soon as we can every time.
All right. Well, it seems like at the very basic level, there's agreement on a list of 18 projects to put into the pre-scoping module. So I guess pending further conversations, Carrie, can you work with everyone to get information and pull into the portal?
So I just had another comment on the green list, so basically with the Route 3 study. There are a lot of recommendations. And I don't actually see one that's just kind of like generic, just the Route 3 pipeline study. And there's one specific project, which that one, my understanding is may not be ready until Smarts go around 7. And there's a widening project, which is a county project, which is the Route 3 pipeline study, seems to be missing.
Is that item number 3, Paul?
Yeah, that's a
Different
Now
one?
they have 11 says Route 3 pipeline, the west of I-95 to task force.
That's the right study, but
Paul, is that
one in,
is that number 3?
No.
Look at number 3.
well, okay, so there was the initial Route 3 pipeline study, which was west side of 95, the west side of Endura. That's the scope of where there could be an improvements. And then there's like the follow-up one, which has those limits right there.
The new one. So I think your previous one is the number 3 on the list, and your
It's not.
Now, the previous, number 3 is a county project.
so if
So
it's
is
a
that a
county
pul-
project, it shouldn't be on this list, right?
Well, it's not a county project, it's basically it's a county created project. And yes, it's eligible for this list.
It did not come about through the pipeline study.
Okay,
It's not a pipeline study project.
okay. So are you proposing some change? Let's get to that.
Well, I mean, with the Route 3 pipeline study, haven't made this point. There are a lot of potential projects. There could be 8 applications just in the Route 3 pipeline study. I'm not saying that we want to do 8, but we need to have a couple slots that are devoted to Route 3.
Just go back in the slides to that list of what's eligible under HPP. There. So I hear totally what Paul's saying, and I think that there are significant numbers of improvements to Route 3 that are needed. However, only some of them are going to be eligible for HPP, even if they're in a pipeline study, because we've now been limited to only those things.
So they can all be eligible. If we have a widening project, that thing can be connected to them.
Yeah, but then it's one project.
We also have some massive intersection projects, like potentially like quadrant roadway.
So
You guys have not previously sent us that list when Carrie requested a month or 2 ago.
So we did have the Route 3 pipeline study on that list. It's just not on this list.
I would put whatever I got into here. So what you sent me was what I put on this list, Route 3 pipeline. This thing that's on Rule 11, what you sent me.
Yeah, so we did the Route 3 pipeline study, basically the total limits from basically west of Medora to west of 95.
So, Paul, the interchanges or whatever have to be grade separated, right? The new capacity, Harry, what are the limits of new capacity highway?
And I'll say just the limits that are on here right now, but there is potential grade separation. Between kind of west of task force and then basically. 95.
So,
But
Paul,
for one,
yeah.
that's one.
So Paul, you mentioned that project number 11. It may not be ready for Smart Scope until Smart Scope round 7.
We don't know.
Okay, when will you guys know?
That's VDOT question.
I would say that there are several things on this list that there may be some concerns for this round of Smart Scale. It requires a more significant type study, and sections being potentially one of those. If there is a need for some type of IMR, a lot of those, and those are more ratings to have in pre-put module where, the bigger, needs, I guess, of each locality, and focus so that we can start looking at things early on. Because it's really not that far from now until some of the issues. So, if there are things that we need to take a look at, CATS is our smart scale point contact, so, we can call questions through her to find out if there are these questions. And that may answer which ones would move forward with this round and which ones are going to be focuses on getting ready for next round.
Paul, if you want one more slot, we can accommodate in the portal one more, but that's not going to contribute to the 6.
So I guess my understanding is today we're trying to basically figure out like what the 6 are, not what all of our total kind of smart scale projects are.
That's something that's pretty easy to do. So we're going.
Yeah, this was Ian's point a few minutes ago. Basically, with the pipeline studies and the other studies, we don't have all the specifics of that, so we really can't say like we're going to do exactly this one or not that one. So I guess like why don't we what the 6 should be instead of what should our actual kind of 10 projects or whatever that is.
So we're getting that.
Carrie will just put all of these in the portal just so that they're in there. But now we should focus on getting it down to 6 or 7 that we can say these are the ones we're really interested in, bearing in mind that is possibly going to change.
Let's just go locality by locality. Is there anything else you guys might see applying under membership? All right, now. Okay, I don't see Caroline County in the room. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Anybody from Caroline County online?
Holy says no. Okay. City of Fredericksburg, is there?
Mike?
Yeah, my own question's about Route 2, and I'm looking at a lighting improvement. I guess that's safety related, not capacity related. That's why you're saying it's white.
Correct.
Fortunately, yes.
And I also want to add to everyone in the room to make sure that your locality list is full before you come and ask for a application slot under FAMPO or JDRC as well, so that we can make sure to get the most applications as
Mike,
possible in there.
I don't know this for a fact. Becky you might know, but number 22 might fit under the SS4A implementation grants. So you could apply there and get 80% of the money from the federal government.
Great. And don't forget your local.
Sure. Yep.
So Mike, do you have any comments on number 10? Is that what we're talking about, right? Those in the green?
Yes, generally the ones in green and orange.
Yeah. Anything on number 10?
No, it's good to see that it's on the list and hope that we can keep it in as long as one wants to post it.
Either VDOT or the city, do we have a scope for that project? I know it's listed in here, it might just be the name of the convention, as operational improvements. Do we know if that project? Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at, when we can get more information.
Yeah, it sounds like, and Cassie or Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, but it should qualify because it is an interchange technically.
Yes,
So shouldn't be too much issue on that one.
yeah, and I think Gary, right?
And it's grade separated.
I asked specifically asked that one.
Good.
Yeah, and Brooke said that, yes, that one would qualify.
Perfect. Okay, so at least for the city's end, it looks like there's two projects, one being the US 1 and 3 and Route 3 interchange, as well as I-95 widening from exit 130 to exit 126, and that widening may or may not include a VCR trail tunnel if it is eligible. I guess, Paul, your thoughts on the list here as well?
So with the pipeline studies and like the STAR studies, like don't need basically kind of VDOT assistance.
Correct.
The projects we have that might need some VDOT assistance would be number 3 and 4.
Okay.
I'll say for VDOT's benefit that we are developing number 3 with basically Volkers, but we would want kind of VDOT to look at that. So we wouldn't be asking VDOT to do all the work.
So that project would not need to be a part of our 3 then, if you guys are already developing a sketch and cost estimate.
6.
Well, that was a question, I guess, for VDOT. Even if that's on the regional list, that need to be basically in the 6.
If you have a consultant that's doing it, and they would do.
So we don't need to include.
That's number
3.
Number 3. I'm putting
And-
dots next to everyone on my list that
A question as well, that I-95 project, we applied, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 or 4 out of 5 rounds, and it has never scored nearly close to
So
being
things have
successful.
changed. Ian has been in some of the conversations as
Mhm.
well. There's state support for trying to do something with that. We want to make sure it's on our list. It may end up going on the CTB's list, but we want to prepare it for now.
Okay.
It's something of regional benefit. It's not a Spotsylvania
Yep.
project.
And when you guys, in terms of adding it to the CTV list, we would then replace it with one of our other projects on here.
I actually honestly think that in the future we should stop listing the localities, because when you look at this stuff here, we're supposed to do regionally significant projects. And if we start listing it, oh, this locality got 3 and that one got 5, then we just start politics. And honestly, as Paul just said, there's an example of a project that's multiple jurisdictions. And there are others which should be multiple jurisdictions, but I just think in future we should drop bothering with talking about the localities and talk instead about the project itself. And is it a good project? And will it help regional transportation and so on and so on?
And
Right.
there's no thought about waiting until South Point Parkway improvements in Route 1 and the northbound river crossing are complete to see its impacts before applying for this project? Because as per previous conversations, my understanding was that those 2 projects should help with existing congestion in
So
this
what
area.
number are you talking about?
Just same project, number 4. We're looking to widen it because of the impacts at exit 120, going southbound, exit 126, you get stuck in traffic.
So here's a question to VDOT, which might make this mute. This has been submitted multiple times to Smart Scale. Is there any new work you have to do on it to submit it again?
Yes.
You have to
What?
update the cost estimate.
So to update the sketches, we will look to get some.
Why will the schedule have changed from last round?
Because some of them were based on, Google, for example, so if we can get better information, get some survey. Their conclusion underway, to try to refine that and choose the.
I read prices of materials change, so every new round of smart scale.
Sure, but if it's only the cost estimate, it's not a whole study, it's not a whole massive lift, but I'm hearing that the last
There are
submission wasn't good enough.
I don't know that it wasn't good enough, but just there's more updated information. There's the cost estimate, you always have to update that.
Sure.
And some of it is whether or not north and south are combined or if they're separate, and then we can't just split it in half and everything, you know, on east or the west, we think the sound walls could be triggered by burdens perhaps on each side, and so there are some things that I think we would originally want to look at to make sure that that's as strong indication as it can be.
So in terms of our list here, the city would need help on number 10.
Yep.
Got to start. Spotsylvania would need help on number 4. In terms of number 11, that's a pipeline study, so we are good to go on that in terms of help. Number 14 is a pipeline study.
Just go back again.
Number 11 is a pipeline study, so we would not need help on that.
Yeah, all of the ones that are pipeline studies.
Yeah, I'm going through the list. Number
Okay.
14 is a pipeline study, so
You haven't dealt with 1, 2, 4, 5, 6,
I'm-
7, 8, 9.
I'm going locality about.
Always.
Number 14 would be good because that's a pipeline study, would not need help on that. Number 15 would be good because there's a pipeline study, would not need help on that. Number 16 is similar to number 4, kind of grouping those together. I'm assuming, question for Jamie and Paul, you guys would look to apply for the I-95 with the tunnel if it is eligible. That would be the priority. Okay.
Can I just clarify, is anybody wanting this tunnel to go into this round?
Did we ever put a final, that would be, or is that? Oh,
We have final cost estimates on that.
It's very high.
and VDOT concurred with that?
VDOT's reviewed this project 47 million times,
Okay.
even up to this morning.
Yeah, we can get all that together. And I'm also going to get a final, like, whether.
Okay, yeah.
But
If you could just send that to, when you get a chance.
we're looking at like $40 million or something. How much is it now?
As a score drop.
Okay, it's something like that.
Okay, and continuing on down the list, number 17 is a pipeline study, so Caroline County. Cassie or Steven, do you guys have any thoughts on if any projects in that pipeline study may be eligible?
I mean, since it is, kind of depends on what they propose out there, kind of what it's going to come down to,
Also, we don't need help with it because there's a consent.
right? Because it's going to be under the pilot study.
Correct. Okay, and then number 18 as well, that's a STAR study, so we should be good to go in terms of help on that one as well, correct?
Right.
Okay, and then in terms of the Stafford applications, number 1 will likely require, in terms of project readiness, some additional work. I think we'll either apply for SDG funding or take that one on ourselves. Number 2, we would need help on, and that one isn't a prior study, but did not have a cost estimate. Number 5, we would need help on. We do have a cost estimate from a couple of months ago, so it wasn't a study as well. Number 6, we would need support on. Number 8, we would need support on. Number 9 was in a study, and we would need support on. Then number 12 and 13, I'm not sure if we're going to be moving forward with those for this round of Smart Scale yet. So really, it's just number 2, 5, 6. We're probably not moving forward with number 7. So number 2, number 5, number 6, number 8, and number 9.
And number 10? Oh, it's not yours, but anyway. So it looks to me like 7 here that we need help on.
We likely will just apply for phase 1 and apply for phase 2 in a different round.
No, not number 7, 7 items.
Yes.
It's 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Am I missing anything?
So just a question on that, like, with number 2, 5, 6, 8, and 9, those would not be on the Stafford local list, those would
Correct.
only be on a regional list?
Correct.
Okay. I just question basically with exit 136, what is that?
So
And how does that compare with basically number 2?
yeah, so number 2 is the project that was not sure if it was a Fredericksburg application. It's Centerport Parkway, the ramp going southbound instead of going around
Yeah.
Centerport Parkway making the left, it's just the ramp.
Yep.
Which was applied as part of the E9 road improvements. And then number 9 came out of the pipeline study done for the last round of Smart Scale, and that is just turn lane improvements at that.
So could those two be combined?
They could be, but I think we're looking at in terms of cost benefit, keeping them separate, but not certain yet.
So, sorry.
In terms of VDOT support, would I bend the rules and combine them for the sake of this exercise?
Just before you go there, can we just check all the localities in the room and the state partners? Are there any other than those 7 we just mentioned that you think need VDOT assistance? Excluding all the studies, because studies, there's a consultant already being paid to prepare them, so we don't need those. Because I just want to close that off, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Certainly.
If we can close that off, then we can proceed to the next step, which is to talk to VDOT. Okay, then I think we go to the next step.
Okay, hold on.
So it was 2, 5, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, 2,
4,
4,
5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Technically, it's 7. 2 of them are in the same vicinity. There's the Centerport interchange and the exit 136 interchange. It's the same Centerport Parkway. It's just the one is onto US 1 and the other one is onto 95. These are the ones which people in this room say they need help with. Can we squeak through with 7 instead of 6?
They're not going to bend, of course.
And we can't combine those 2?
Would we be able to split it at a later date for the pre-application stage?
Not complete cost estimate.
Why don't you combine them as one application? Because the push here is to make these applications bigger.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going through FAMPO for it, then
Yeah.
I'd say it
We-
would probably make more sense for it to be.
What advantage do you see to having this?
I'm not sure yet. Yeah, that's something we're working on. So we can, yeah.
You know what? If this is about asking for VDOT's assistance and they only want 6, I would just combine those 2 and ask for assistance. And then we can, in January, mess with them if we need to mess with them.
For 9, to understand what modifications are and what highways would be required,
Yeah, exactly.
So, those are things.
So what I'm seeing here is it's mostly just one of the Stafford projects that we would drop or combine. So does anyone at TAC have an issue with us talking internal and working with VDOT to remove one of them from VDOT support?
No.
Good to go?
Good to go.
Okay.
Good.
So just to clarify, we will be asking for VDOT support on number 10. I shouldn't go backwards, sorry. For number 2, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 8, number 9, and number 10. And then of those, one of the Stafford ones we will either combine or remove.
Okay.
Need to take a motion for that? Do I have a motion to approve for VDOT support?
I'll motion to approve.
A second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, there's awesome. All right, so we will move on to.
Just hang on one second. Laura Sellers, are you still on the line? Huh?
Yes.
Okay, beg your pardon. Yeah, I've just got a message from Laura Sellers saying the HPP changes will impact jurisdictions too.
Yes.
What?
So it will be it's anyone, which, so it will be basically HPP across the board. That's all it will be eligible for HPP funding. So that goes for, I mean, it's the biggest impact is the MPO and PDC because that's all you can apply for. But for localities, because they can apply for both the district grant and they can also apply for HPP, it will still, no matter what, that will hold for HPP funding, no matter who applies for it. That's all that will like be able to apply for HPP.
So just to clarify, you're saying that jurisdictions out can apply for HPP funding without MPOs or PDCs. They can have a separate application to HPP.
Yes.
Okay.
Project qualifies for it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, and just FYI, we should take a motion to approve 7 with staff removing 1. So we're good to go on that.
Thank you. Chairman, some of these slides I'm just going to whisk through very quickly because I've seen them before. The idea here about having this map is to just remind everybody that if we don't have a transportation authority here, have all of the congestion problems that they have, say, in Richmond, but we don't have the funding mechanism to fix them with the current situation without the transportation authority. And as you know, we get something like $6 million per annum, give or take, in CMAC and SDGB and all those other funny little pieces of funding that pop up. So that's the limit of the funding we have. Otherwise, jurisdictions have to fund everything, right? There's no other funding aside from smart scale. Smart scale is where we go for the funding. Next. We need to choose a name if we're going to have a transportation authority. Next slide. The representatives, those are the ones I put into the draft bill. But if, you know, people want a different mix, that's fine. This is just in order to make some progress.
Ian, who would the other members be? You're thinking transit agencies and citizen representatives?
Effectively, we would have the representative of the head of VDOT and the head of DRPT. We've suggested the FAMPO administrator as a non-voting and the GWRC director. Reason for that is, aside from these people, these are not necessarily transportation planners, any of them, right? So these are non-voting, but they would at least be able to, in a meeting, say, no, you can't actually have a road at 90 degrees vertical or something. They can put technical advice in the meeting. Not essential. You can also remove those. Looking at other RTAs, they have some of these people, not all of them, but really it's up to, you know, the people who make the decision. It's just a question. This one added something here because the question is, if you have 2 representatives from each jurisdiction, how do you handle the weighted? Because you have to get 80%, the representatives of 80% of the population to vote in favor of projects before you can get them approved. So how do you calculate that if you have 2 members from each jurisdiction? So we put in a weighting that is the population between the 2 representatives. So if, let's say your population is 100,000, each representative would have 50,000 in terms of getting to the 80%. Next slide. I've just spelled this out a little bit more clearly because if I didn't do this, you could be left with the impression that we're only talking about highway capacity funding, right? So I've made it very clear here. We're talking about transit, bicycle, pedestrian accommodations, sidewalks, plus highway capacity is not all highway capacity. I think we're losing sight of that fact in the thing. When we got to the gas tax, it is exceptionally complicated. First glance, it doesn't look complicated, but everything's got a subset and a subset and a subset. And so John just drew up a spreadsheet. Don't bother with getting into this detail. The point we were just trying to make is it's really difficult to understand where the damn gas tax is coming from and going to. There's sub-layers and sub-layers and sub-layers. Next slide. For that reason, this is not going to work. There isn't a gap we can use. I need to explain the legislation because the state changed the legislation, right? And you have to know about all the changes. There's multiple changes that have happened. The one change was to shift to tax on the wholesale price, no longer the retail price, and to change from a number of cents to a percentage. Now you try to calculate that back to the change in the retail price. You have to do a little bit of guessing, and it moves, it changes. The next problem is the state decided to, this thing that we now use for VRE funding is called a commuter rail tax in the bill. What the state did is that they extended that tax to every location in Virginia, no matter whether they have commuter rail or not. And our understanding at this stage is that the balance of that funding gets put into the smart scale pot, which is a weird thing to do, right? Because that means that those that have VRE, their gas tax money funds VRE and a little bit left over for localities use, is my understanding. And the other localities that don't have commuter rail, the full amount of their gas tax gets put into the smart scale pot.
Unless it's being collected in specific jurisdictions, which they get set aside, and then they can also use that.
Exactly. So in some cases, it doesn't go into the smart scale pot. For example, it goes to the Richmond RTA, right? Not into the smart scale pot. And then there are takeoffs, like for Womata at the top, right? It's a messy thing. So this won't work because we cannot calculate a gap between us and Richmond. It's not going to work. If we put that on, we'll raise our fuels taxes higher than the fuels taxes in Richmond. Not the price, because the price is not set by the tax. The price is set by the person doing the selling or the retailing, but the tax portion of the price, right? It's been suggested that we consider a tax on the retail price, which might get absorbed by the on the wholesale price, which might get absorbed by the wholesale seller. I don't know if Stephen wants to elaborate on that particular thing. He had some ideas on it. Because there's a relative gap between surrounding states and the state of Virginia in terms of the wholesale price, and they may wish to absorb that. My problem with relying on that is, what if they don't? They don't absorb it. It becomes an additional tax to us. And my problem is, and I've stated this right up front, what I don't want to do is price our region out of the market by making our tax rates higher, much higher than everybody else, especially those that have an RTA, because you then make business, you carry a burden here that's not elsewhere. So I'm trying to not do that. So again, I don't have a vote, but
Yeah, Ian, just a question on that. So was the issue, it just was too complicated and the juice is not worth the squeeze?
yeah, next slide.
So are we sure that basically the gas tax in Northern Virginia, Fredericksburg is not higher than basically Richmond?
If we only take the gas tax and forget about everything else, if we just take the actual gas taxes that exist, they're all the same now because the state extended them. So what you get as VRE tax, the state has taken that tax and imposed it on, say, give me a county out in the where? Allegheny. They put it the same tax on the Allegheny county's fuel. So there's no longer differential. Everybody in Virginia has now got that commuter rail tax. So there's no longer differential. So there's no longer that green gap, which we didn't understand because of that flow chart. It's so complicated that to get to the thing, you can unpick it, but you need an algorithm because you've got to try and reverse into a lot of these taxes. It's very complicated. And what made it simple for me is when I approached the VDOT folks who do the actual calculations, and I spoke to the Office of the Deputy Secretary for Finance in Virginia, and they said, yeah, the way it's allocated is a big mess, but at the end of the day, they've extended the same gas tax right across the state. There's no county or city or town that has a different commuter rail tax or the base tax. So if those two taxes are the same throughout, there's no gap to exploit, which I thought there was. So I'm saying, let's give up on that because there's no gap to exploit. If there was still a gap to exploit, that's the gap I was trying to get for our jurisdictions.
So the objective, what you're saying, is to not levy a rate that's higher in this region than anywhere else.
And in Richmond, because then.
And is that a foregone conclusion in discussions with the policy committee or?
Not at all. It's my personal point of view.
Okay.
And as all of my personal point of views, they don't even get a vote. So I voice them so that you can think about them and decide you don't like my point of view. That's all fine. Sometimes people do. So.
I'm just curious if it was
No, I just said.
Counting, sentiments from the region.
I just said in trying to understand how best we can get something for us, that I don't want to push our taxes too much higher than surrounding areas, because then we will end up having a case where our gas tax is higher than Richmond, and what then, right? People will buy their gas in Richmond, they won't buy their gas here, and then the local suppliers, et cetera, et cetera.
Basically, the trick is the wholesale gas tax is applied across the state. It's just that specific regions get that money back in a different way. And if you don't get the money back, it's going into that
state pot.
That's the point. So the R81 corridor, they get some. Richmond gets some, but they don't have to pay VRE. We get some, but it largely goes to VRE. So wherever it's spent is a mess, but they've uniformly applied the raising of it now, even though the spending of it is messy. And if you know something different to what I've just said, please feel free to share it. I'm not the expert by any means.
How much, Ian, would you, because you're used the phrase too much. What is too much?
Too much what?
That's what I'm asking
Well,
you.
that was kind of the purpose of my question too, is like, how much is the region willing to bear to solve the transportation?
So, I mean, no, I told you, that's just my opinion, but my opinion is higher than everybody around us is too much.
So any higher at all.
I think if it sounds like a news story, it's too much. And I think based on the last policy board discussion, listening in, that sounds like a news story. It's Fredericksburg region has the highest, gas, why would we do that? I mean, yes, it makes sense, but it don't.
That story, if it said a penny a gallon, let's say, people would buy that a penny a gallon.
If you
Nickel a gallon, okay.
If you want it, if the jurisdictions want it, I'll argue for it. I'm just telling you that my own opinion, my private opinion, is we shouldn't have that happen.
You've got some other less regressive taxes up there that you propose, so I want to hear.
So what also happened was, of course, that never mind. Basically, what I'm suggesting is that we give up on these three taxes, right? Some of our localities are saying these are too many taxes anyway. So if we're going to actually get, my job on this damn project has gone from being a transportation planner to being a freaking politician. It's not necessarily welcome, right? Anyway, the point is, I don't think this is going to fly because it's going to make our gas tax the highest. Might not be the highest price at the pump, because as you know, some can be absorbed, but it's going to certainly make our gas taxes the highest. So I'm suggesting we give up on this, even though it's the obvious place to raise money for transportation, the gas tax, right? But we would price ourselves out of the market. That's my worry here. So I'm suggesting we give up on these three.
Don't feel bad about that, because the more transit does its job, the less of a fund that is. So what you're doing is you're trying to fund the post office on stamps, age of email cards. You're thinking forward by not relying on that.
So there you go. There's a different argument to make the same point. So I'm suggesting we give up on that. I'm suggesting that we keep a retail tax, but keep it at a low level. Stafford has said on the record that they're concerned about the fact that they're applying for an additional tax on, say, retail sales for their school fund. So that if we're concerned about that, then we can't have a really big retail sales tax. However, the fact is that in all of the transportation authorities in this state, and I'm assuming in other states, the biggest amount of money comes from the retail sales tax. That's where the big money is because it's a small amount on millions and millions and millions of transactions. So A, people don't feel it as much, and B, it collectively raises the last amount of money. So the big money will always come from here. However, we can't make this too high. So I'm suggesting we keep it at a lowish level because it'll bring in the most money. The second biggest amount of money, if we follow this, is the recordation tax. And I must say, we reached out to all of the localities to ask them what taxes they have. And even our localities are confusing the grantor's tax and the state recordation tax. And do you know why they're confusing them? Because the frickin' state recordation tax bill keeps on referring to a grantor's tax in the bill itself. So it's not difficult to get confused. It's quite easy to be confused because when you're talking about the state recordation tax as the heading, it keeps referring to this damn grantor's tax. And so we found some of our localities tell us, you ask them, do you have a grantor's tax? Do you have a recordation tax? Do you have a transit occupancy tax? And what are the numbers? And they tell us, yes, we have a grantor's tax, but they don't. What they have is this thing, but the language in the bill says grantor's tax, and so they assume it's the grantor's tax that is talked about in the McPike bill, but it's not. They have this thing, don't have that thing. Okay, so we'll get into the numbers, but I'm suggesting we keep those and we do away with this. It's less taxes, and we try to keep this one at a level that people can live with because it raises the most money. Next slide. And there's some numbers for you. We've put gas tax, the diesel tax, and the highway use fee, which is for the electric and alternative fuels vehicles, at 0. Now you want 0.1, but we put it at 0, and you can see what brings in the money. The retail tax at 0.5, not 1%, as we were misquoted recently. We've never asked for 1%. We've never proposed it in a slide ever. It's 0.5%. It brings in the most money, and the second biggest money is the state allocation. This is effectively coming from the recordation tax. Those are the two that bring in the money. When you look at how much the gas tax would have brought in, which we've showed you before, it's not 5 million.
1 to 5 million.
$1 to $5 million, depending on where you set it. It's not a big amount of money anyway, even if we do go for it. This one brings in very little, the transient occupancy tax. It's not a lot of money. Well, I mean, you can make it a lot of money, but at 1%, that's what you're getting.
That 15 million state legislated annual allocation.
That's the recordation tax, which we would
Okay.
get back. At
Okay.
the moment, some of it is charged here, collected here,
And then
collected by the jurisdictions here, and then
Yeah.
all ends up Hampton Roads' pot, basically, or
Okay.
other jurisdictions.
All right, so that's not C-Rock, right?
Huh?
That 15 million is not C-Rock. It's not the C-Rock. Because it just looks suspiciously, that's how much VRE receives
No,
every year in C-Rock from state, yes.
this has nothing to do with BRE whatsoever.
Okay, just want to make,
Recordation taxes mostly goes to Hampton Roads. This increases the total slightly and then gives us back 15 million.
okay.
Because it was initially given to localities here, then taken away and given to Hampton Roads. This brings it back, but increases the amount. Anyway, that's another complicated tax if you want to get into the detail, but it's proposed by other people, and so I just left it in. We could have taken it out.
Yeah, I got a quick question. Did anybody talk about bringing back, maybe some of us remember this, like county stickers?
No.
I thought that amount is already charged when you go to register your car.
Is it?
Yeah, at least it is in Fairfield.
I'm not even.
They do like the statewide registration and then they do the county registration. It's all part of your annual. They just don't require you to put a sticker on your car.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So we went to the localities to ask them about this, right? And here are the results. This is a state retail tax 4.3%. 1% local, all the same. In the Richmond RTA, they have a 0.7% there. Hampton Roads is a 0.7 there. John, remind us what the purple is.
The purple is just the highest, so historic triangle, that's.
No, what's the 2%?
The 2%, what do you mean? The 2%. So yes, Williamsburg, York, and James City County have an additional tourism tax. So they actually apply a 1% tax on all sales to support their tourism initiative. So they have the 1% local as well as a 1% additional local that is specified for tourism.
So this part of Virginia has the 4.3 base. They have another 2% that lobbied on,
And then the Hampton Roads.
and they're in the Hampton Roads Authority, so they have 0.7, right? Richmond has the 4.3, the 1, and 0.7. We're proposing 4.3 and 1, which is the state existing, and the 0.5 is the one that we're proposing there. We can argue about the number, but that's basically.
So Ian, and question, maybe something to add for the future presentation, I'm assuming to the policy committee, what is NVTA, Fairfax, Prince William, Ireland?
Okay, we can put all those names in. For the transit occupancy tax, it's all over the place, right? Each of our jurisdictions has a different number. We've looked at the neighbors. They also contribute to the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, plus they have a basic. Virginia Beach and Emporia have the highest in the state currently. So the proposal here is the 1%. Remember, again, this doesn't bring in a huge amount of money, not a massive winner for big money, but it does tax people moving through the region because we're not charging them a gas tax if we go this route, right? Next one. Yeah, the grantor's tax, currently there's 0. Your localities say the words grantor's tax when they actually mean the recordation tax, because the recordation tax bill speaks about grantor's tax all the time, and it's confusing to the reader. We don't have any grantor's taxes currently in the region. You have a recordation tax, which people call a grantor's tax. There's 0. So the proposal is 0.06. Hampton Roads currently has 0.06. MBTA has 0.15. This does bring in a little more money than a transit occupancy tax. It's all on the table. That's where it is. Next one. Okay. My first version of this slide had an error in because, of course, Hampton Roads does not give a cent back to the locality.
Oh.
Right? So I fixed it now. MBTA, they keep 70% for regional projects and 30% go to local projects. Richmond, 50% goes to local, 35% goes to the RTA, and 15% to transit. And there, so we need to still think about the transit question. Initially, the proposal was that we do a similar split and we set aside an amount for transit. Then we heard in the last TAC that that's problematic because that 15%, then you're obliged to give the 15%, no more, no less every year. You're stuck with the same amount. So some years you might not need the 15%, other years you might need 20% or 25%, but you're locked into this thing when you put it in the bill, right? The counter to that, we heard at the policy committee, which is if you don't plan any for transit, it feels like a grudge purchase. I'm using my own words here. It feels like a grudge purchase later and nobody wants to do it, right? So it's a 6 of one and a half dozen of the other. Do it and you're damned. Don't do it and you're damned.
I would suggest that we look at like a 12% and set aside of trans, and then with like a hybrid situation where transit could cost more.
Yeah, I think setting a floor is helpful because then it allows you to say, what is the operating cost of the region's transit system? And whatever percentage of that total operating cost could be covered by whatever percentage. And we can never go lower than that.
So we can actually pull kind of similar to what Spotsylvania County does for its transit occupancy tax, because it designated like of the 9% transit occupancy tax, up a minimum of 2% has to be spent on their tourism, but they cap
They
it
can-
at 5%. So it actually creates a range, it creates a floor as well as an upper end range.
You're chairing the meeting, you don't have to put your hand up.
I think the main question also for transit is what is it going to fund, right? Because we already give, VRE is 2.5 to 3 million. Fred in a normal year is $500,000, for instance, and that's coming out of fuels tax. So what will that money also be going towards? If you're doing 12% of 50 million,
I think the conversation should go around this, right? Effectively, if we're not gonna do a gas tax, and that's like, again, it's not a decision, it's a discussion. If we scrap these, shouldn't call gas taxes, fuel taxes. Because effectively it's going to fund VRE. Maybe if we have transit, it should be for bus transit, because VRE, there's room for them to increase this VRE amount over time without having to get it from our transportation authority.
yeah, and it's,
That's the thought, right? There's
Yeah.
no perfect answer to this.
I think just the question, if you're putting in a bill, 12% goes towards transit, well,
Yeah.
what are the needs of the transit service?
As an example, like, I'm not advocating for this, I'm just saying as a one potential future scenario, the region could jointly fund its VRE needs, its annual subsidy through this set aside.
Yeah, and
If
then
that
we
was
have
something you
fuels
choose to do.
tax.
Yeah,
Our fuels tax that we normally go to VRE would just go to the locality.
would go to locality for their own local.
Right.
And for us or for bus transit, I mean, operating expenses is the kicker for all the jurisdictions. So, and if anybody said, well, what else would you fund with that great pot of money? Well, we have a 10-year strategic plan that
There we go.
can
Growth service.
Exactly.
pick anything out of there.
So that's just the main question. Whenever we talk about where funding is going to, make sure that we have a strategic plan.
So-
Stafford, we just did a transportation master plan, so we know what we would want to fund with the money.
Sure.
So for a reason that I don't want to go into or don't want to open that can of worms, politicians don't like to vote to fund operating costs for transit.
I know.
They love voting to fund capital costs, and they can go and cut the ribbon when the big station is opened or whatever. They just generally, historically, in the United States, mostly, but elsewhere too, just don't like to put up their hand and vote for transit operating costs. But they have to come from somewhere. So you either put the ticket price up or you find another way of raising the funds. So the question is this a less painful way of funding transit operating costs because it's not asking the jurisdictions to give it to the transit operators, it's taking it all up? Yeah. It's one argument, I don't know.
One other idea or thought is, it could also be something where it's, say it's 60-40, regional versus local split. When you come to prioritize the 60% of money, you add something into the prioritization methodology that says X% of this goes off the top to transit operating, right? And then it's something that it's not written into the bill, but that the members of the RTA board can change as needed, depending on the needs.
I don't have the perfect answer for you. I'm listening to you because
Yeah.
I'm hoping you've also got some
Just throwing out some thoughts.
good points, right? Bob and Paul are very quiet, which makes me nervous always. VDOT, any comments in transit, any members of any of the other agencies?
That operating cost issues, of course, hit the metro system, and you've all read about that. Be interesting to see, because it's billions. How they remedy.
740 million they have to get done next year.
I'll also share one other trend that we saw back in 2018 is, if you recall, if you didn't pay attention to MBTA when Metro had that issue, the state passed a bill that actually took money from other entities. So by having some dedicated entrenched funding with state law is to your advantage, because otherwise they can raid if you apply for commuter choice programs, or they decide to raid the general fund, or they decide to not fund part of the transportation fund. There was a bill in the last session proposed by the governor to take $100 million out of transportation programming and put it up for some very vague, uninformed, meaning we didn't know what it was for, economic development. No location, no context, just a fund. And then another example of that, we could keep going, but there's also the loss of the grocery. By the way, that was proposed prior administration. but there's been no plan to specifically fund that back. It's just the economy's good enough that we can fund it at a surplus. So if you don't have ways to do it, when other funds get raided, you won't have a way to actually keep your current activities moving.
So Melody, your 12%, is that for operating or capital and operating, or what was the idea?
So,
Yeah.
So I mean, my thought, just for what it's worth, and I don't have a strong view here, I'm trying to find something that is good for the region, right? I don't know what that looks like.
I would say one thing, historically, if you put in 12%, you can expect a 12.5% reduction in the general fund line item. So it's just going to be a swap. It's not going to be an add-on. You can just expect the localities. The transportation managers look at you, Paul, because it's gonna end up on you to say, well, now that we're paying them, what do you recommend? How could we spend that 12.5? They're gonna ask you to find other ways to not spend it on transit. That is just what happens if it happens 25 years, 25 years, and that is what occurs when there's a new fund that comes up. So do not look at this as an enhancement. Recognize that this might be for a year until the teeth are sunk in. And then it becomes a way to use this other money. So whatever you put in now is just going to.
There is a partial remedy to that in the bill. Senator McPike put a line in the bill which says that localities cannot reduce their current level of transit funding in a swap out. In other words, whatever you put out of this has to be above. However, it's locked in at 2023 level. So slowly that'll be eroded by inflation, but it is a little something towards that problem.
It will, and just to give further perspective, like on VRE's needs, so projecting almost $100 million operating or an O&M shortfall by 2030. I presented that at one of our last board meetings, and the vast majority of the growth on the Fredericksburg line in ridership is going to come from Spotsylvania, Fredericksburg, and Stafford by 2030. And certainly beyond that. And so what we're starting to see is this pattern where, the service is being used as a percentage of the total system more by this region than anywhere else. But then as we start to add service, the operating costs are going to grow beyond what revenues we expect to bring in.
And that might be the time when the gas tax has to slightly go up. Because that is a part. Alternatively, this part has to pay from these other sources to backfill the shortfall, or the localities have to fund it themselves. I don't know. I mean, my gut feel is that we should probably put a sub minimum, like there should be a sub minimum set aside for transit, and then up to another amount on a project by project basis, right? So it gives you a sub minimum for operating, like 5 or 8% or some amount, and then up to another amount when there's a demonstrated project need, which is different to operating expenses. But I mean, I don't know.
So just a comment and question on transit. So King George doesn't have transit yet. I would imagine they would at some point. So in the meantime, collecting this tax, does the county decide what to do with that money?
No.
Okay, so what does happen to that money? Because
that's exactly the question that we were asking when we did this analysis, because the thing is, they extended that tax to everybody. So, because I was thinking, well, what about Caroline if they get VRE, right? And then he was reminding me, no, they're already paying the VRE tax. They just don't have the VRE, right?
Right.
You guys are paying it, but you're not likely to get VRE because of the way the rail line.
Yeah.
So it's going into the smart scale pot currently, as far as we can tell.
Okay.
So you are paying the gas tax. It gets put in the smart scale pot, and then if you apply for smart scale projects, you get some of that money back. That's the way it's currently working, I think.
Right.
You saw that flow chart. It's a mess.
So this regional transportation authority, what you're saying is that we're going to be contributing to a transit that we won't get the benefit from.
No, in this transportation authority,
right,
money would be set aside for transit, and you could request a new transit route to come to your locality, which could be funded out of this money.
Right.
If you don't do this, I don't think you're going to see any of the gas tax money.
Right. Okay. That's what I wanted to.
Unless
clarify.
Unless the commuter rail bill is changed to include bus transit.
Okay.
Currently, no.
All right, I do want to move on, Ian, if you want to do the next few slides.
Wrap up. Okay, you've seen all of that. So the thing currently proposes the 60/40. Next one. This is the proposal. The last slides have nothing new in them. This is the proposal to have a scoring mechanism, so it's not just like giving the money. It's like a project that has some viable show some metrics. However, here we're saying the first few projects can be agreed upfront in a memorandum between those that participate in the RTA. So you say, we're going to fund a bus, or we're going to fund a bridge, or we're going to fund whatever it is. Next one.
Thank you.
Still, that funding should be a match. You should try to still get federal or state funds or smart scale funds and use that as a match or leverage. Next one. And this is just an example. I added in transit. This is just an illustration, right? I'm not suspecting anybody's going to say that that's a good mix, but the idea is that what do you mean by an MOU of projects? Well, what I mean is we take some projects, we're going to allocate out of the first money those projects, so no locality feels like their people are paying into the tax and they're not getting anything in their locality. And I've added transit now because I'm realizing that if we don't spell it out, people are just going to think there's no transit. Next one. I think that's the last. That's it, done. Thank you.
And just for an FYI, and the other item was in the packet, there's a draft legislation.
Yes, I think Paul wanted to speak to that, but this is, the draft legislation. Yes, that's just the rough draft of the bill. So I've taken what you just saw and put it in the bill. There is a small change because I've taken that breakup of the population and applied it per representative from each locality. And at the end, I've crossed off the gas tax sections or the fuel tax section.
And then,
but I don't think they're going to fly. So if you look right at the end, there's just, you see, cross this out. So I don't think we should do this because I don't think it's going to fly.
all right. And then on the other item was item 6C, the UPWP update related
That's the one
legislation.
I wanted to talk to. That is requested almost by VDOT because, the UPWP says, and anything else the policy committee instructs us with staff to do, right? So this was an extra thing they asked us to do, but VDOT felt it's a significant project. So we should therefore spell it out in the UPWP as a specific project. And so in order for us to do the research, that's what it does. It allows us to pursue just research. That's all that staff can spend their time, a portion of their time, doing some research to produce these presentations that you've just seen. So that's what the UPWP amendment does.
Could we pull up item 6C, resolution 2412 on the screen?
There.
So this item was an action on the consent agenda that Spotsylvania asked to move off. Paul, do you want to comment on it?
So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. So I guess I'm just trying to understand, like, we've been talking about this now for several months. Why wasn't this in the original committee?
Because the policy committee only instructed us 2 months ago, was it, to do some research. So until then, it wasn't a planned project for PAMPO. Now, because we're talking about it so much, I think VDOT has a concern that we should add it to the UPWP because otherwise we don't have a specific thing. But the UPWP does actually allow us to do research on other things that the policy committee instructs us to do. So we can still do it, even if we don't do this amendment. However, because it's a bigger project, VDOT felt we should reflect it in the language of the UPWP, and that's why we requested public comment, etc.
This is a administrative item.
Yep.
Yes.
It kind of cross T's, dot I's.
But it does open up a public involvement. Right.
All right, do you have a motion for the item 6C, resolution 24-12?
I guess I just had one other question. So the public comment that came, was it in response to this? The RTA? All right.
There was an article.
Yeah.
All right, do you have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Awesome, motion carries. All right, moving on to item 8C, 2050 LRTP updates, proposed timeline and schedule.
Thank you, Chair. And I reached out to folks for edits to the 2050 LRTP, and it appears I had good input from Paul that there's no reason to rush this prior to spring where all your project awards and applications will be in hand. The heavy lift is, Mr. likes to say, will be the amendments to the CLRP to add update project costs, add projected revenue, and then we'd like to work with TAC to trim off some of the projects that should be in the needs list and make the CLRP those that are truly going to be funded and implemented within the funding forecast. You want to add anything, Ian?
The last comment is that, remember, we are only required to do the air quality conformity until December 2025. So we only have 25 months left to still do air quality conformity. After December 2025, in terms of federal state law, we will no longer be required to do it. So this time around, we will be required to do it. But if we're lucky, we could get away with not having to do it again. Long term, my proposal, and you don't need to make any decisions now, but long term, my proposal is that once a year, once we no longer have to do air quality conformity, we once a year open a window to shift projects between the needs list and the CLRP based on whether new fundings come in, whether a new project has arrived, or whether an old project is completed and can be taken off the list or whatever. These two things, I think, should in the long run work together, where your needs lists are the things that are coming up but not yet ready to be funded, and the CLRP things are ready to be funded or have already been funded and actually are going to start being implemented. So, and then you could switch because things change from 1 year to 1 year. So once a year, I think we should have a little process to shift between these two lists so that you know next year you can change it again and the next year again, but only once a year.
All right, thank you. So we'll talk further about this in the spring once we have smart scope projects applications starting to move forward. So we'll move on to item number 9, correspondence.
This is just the only thing in correspondence, which is the announcement and input for environmental input with the new park and ride location on Old Forge.
Thank you. All right. With that, we'll move on to item number 10, staff reports.
In each of these cases, I've asked staff, because of time, to just give you a 2-sentence on each one. We're not going to have a long discussion. So with the river crossing, John?
Just a reminder that the contract has been executed. Staff is starting its conversation with the consultants. I would like for this committee to be aware that we're probably sending out doodle polls for our first stakeholder meeting. That's likely going to happen in January, but the doodle polls and scheduling will be happening fairly soon. So we'll have additional conversations with the consultants and get back with you on the scheduling process.
PMP?
Coley's going to hit on the rest of them.
The Becky, Connor, and I updated the PMP page on the congestion management process on our Bamboo website. Just letting y'all know that. We also had the first SS4A stakeholder meeting. So thank you to all the locality staff and BDOT who joined us for that. The main takeaway was the 5 locations have been confirmed for the projects, and on the November 15th meeting, the countermeasures for the project locations will be determined. So we appreciate all y'all's feedback and look forward to seeing locality staff and BDOT again for the November 15th meeting.
Please, can every locality now look at your 5 corridors and think through what the right countermeasure should be to fix the safety problem, right? So when you come to the meeting, the consultant will present some stuff, and then you may be able to say, hey, we really think a crosswalk should be added, right? So come there with some thoughts, not final decisions, but just some thoughts on what you think might be better or worse.
And then the committee schedule for 2024 is available here. Hopefully y'all don't see any changes that need to be made.
Please let us know if you see any clashes so that we can make the adjustment before the policy committee meeting adopts it on the 20th of November.
And then included in your, or attached to your agenda, is the public involvement activity summary from 2023. And all the locations that we visited and about the number of people that we.
So I just want to blow Coley's trumpet a little bit. Coley has spoken to 450 people this year individually, one-on-one about FAMPO and what we do here, right? And has taken them surveys, it's gone to farmers markets, it's gone all over the place. So well done to Coley. That's a lot of people.
And one more item.
Yes, we have, do you want to?
No, go for it.
We have discovered that one of our longest standing TAC members in the person of Mr. Stephen Haynes is retiring. And he's retiring in December when we're all on the Christmas holidays. And so we have all signed a card in recognition of Stephen's, how many years?
37.
37 years.
Not on the TAC, but.
How many of the 37 have you been on the TAC?
7.
7.
Yes.
Okay, so 37 years service to the region and 7 years directly to the TAC. So the TAC members have signed the card and we just want to congratulate you on your retirement. And if anybody needs staff and wants to hire Stephen part-time in his retirement, now's your chance.
He's not Stephen. I need you.
And for the folks on the sign up, get Stephen's card for you. And your next.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to member reports.
I just have a quick thing, just as a follow-up on the RTA floor. I just want the jurisdictions to think about it as CARES Act funding. Y'all paid less because we got other funding sources. So when you talk to your elected officials and they say, we are not doing a floor for transit, just remember what we're going to experience in FY 2026, where we're going to ask you for significantly more because we don't have that offset. So just wanted to put that out there. I know that's not really in this section, but I did want to make sure that we will always try to look out for the locality's costs. And if we do have an RTA, and as Bob said, we know it's not going to be a fixed price, but we'll take that swap.
And to add to that, with CARES Act, last year we paid half or
Less than half.
like 25%.
Yeah.
And this coming year, we'll probably pay 50 to 75%.
No, you're still actually close because of the money from GWRC, and of course PRTC OmniRide. We are still good for another year.
Okay. So by 2026, we'll be back to the
Yeah.
CARES Act pre-COVID. Awesome.
Look at that.
No man, no fun, your son.
All right. Does anyone else have any other member reports to add?
Go ahead.
So just provide a quick plug for CMAC STDG. That due date's coming up on November 20th, as well as if you haven't gotten some of your cost estimates, it's not a screening requirement, but it is a scoring item.
Thank you, John.
Did you hear what he said? Get your cost estimates into VDOT.
So not a transportation related thing, but the Fredericksburg Christmas parade, December 2nd, BRE's got a float for the first time ever. So
the train?
Well, I've been told that it's VRE under the sea, quote unquote. So we'll see how that. I'm not on the float committee, so
that could be amusing.
Yeah.
Forward to it.
But yes, please come out and we'll be throwing candy and all that good stuff.
Under this.
That sounds so tragic.
Water grapes.
Is that something about global warming?
Building a channel. I'm sorry.
December 11th, around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. The OmniRide staff will be in 3 park ride lots in Spotsylvania, Stafford County as we launch 3 additional routes.
Fantastic.
Take customers into DC as well as the Pentagon. So if you want to come hang out, we typically have some goodies. We'll do like a service ribbon cutting. It'll be cold as hell. So dress accordingly. We've been VDOT to open something in summer. We're freaking awesome. We freeze our asses off every year, it seems. So we'll usually have some goodies and some giveaways and things like that for passengers, but we encourage you to come down and take a peek at what we've got going on.
And can you remind me what the 3 routes are?
By number and name, no, but we have the new 3 park and ride lots, the Commonwealth, was it Avenue or Commonwealth Drive, thank you. I don't know my southern topography. And then there's a relocated park and ride lot. It's the 3 lots attached to the new on-ramps for FedEx. So we've got those routes and I'll have, our planning team send something down and we'll get it distributed for everybody.
Well, thank you.
And
What's
what
the
was that
date?
Yeah.
December 11th.
Unfortunate that you have to inaugurate new routes just before everybody goes on their Christmas holidays, meaning that the ridership will be pretty rough at that time of the year.
Ironically, it works out well for us.
Does it?
Yeah, it's a nice soft launch. We'll have done some practice runs prior to that.
Good.
The ability to work out some kinks and figure out, especially for the drivers, how to line that bus up in the sawtooth and all those little things.
I'll take it back.
It's like opening a restaurant on a Tuesday.
Yeah. I'm gonna just
Chance to get there.
answer the quick question. I lied, apparently it's 3. The 3 routes are, and we are buying our first electric vehicles. We're doing it for our micro transit and paratransit. Just as an aside, we'll have a little fun ribbon cutting for that. But the 3 in particular are Route 541 Courthouse Road to downtown Washington. When we say downtown Washington State Department, we're talking the east side of DC. Basically, it wraps around the back side of the White House in a clockwise fashion. Then we have 932 Falmouth, Route 17 commuter lot to Pentagon, Rosslyn, Boston. Very straightforward on that. And then 923 is the Commonwealth lot to Pentagon. Then it goes to LaFont and Navy Yard. Why are some named 9, some named 5? I-95 starts with a 9, it's over here. It starts with a 5, it's over here. So it tells you geographically which side of the interstate. So based on where you want to go. And of course, we have our services out of Stafford already. So this should bring us to, I think, 5 or 6 different routes coming.
And you guys are funding that right now through DRPT and the future probably.
I-95, 395, and a couple of just interesting asides. At one point, typically the farther out routes are actually profitable. We actually draw down very little state funds for that. Beneficial because we deduct off the fares. But an aside for pent-up demand, post-pandemic, the commuter route that returned the fastest was Stafford to Pentagon. And it makes sense based upon employment center and geography and the demographic. Heavy military.
All right, well, thank you. Unless there's any other items, okay.
Really quickly, the GeoDirect Next Strategic Plan has been posted for public comment. We're accepting comment through next Wednesday, the 15th. So let me know if you want me to send you the link to it. It's available on our website and the GeoDirect Next website. And welcome any feedback.
All right, awesome. With that, need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. we're adjourned.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I feel like the other reason Stafford Borough is so, well, patronized